Hello, PlayStation Universe. Thanks for tuning in for another one of our E3 2016 coverage videos where we talk about the games that we saw, played, were impressed by, were not so impressed by, just a little bit of everything to give you a flavor of what's happening here at E3. I'm with Will Robinson, and we are talking about Am Setsuna, an RPG coming from a new studio cultivated within the broader holdings of Square Enix. And that is...
Tokyo RPG Factory.
Tokyo RPG Factory, a new collective of developers.
First announced as a developing studio last year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Part of a new initiative by Square to embrace some smaller teams and get a little bit of independent flavor into what was otherwise, of course, a very big, very long-standing...
Revamp the old school RPG.
Yes, revive the old school RPGs. So that's a good place to start. Walk me through a little bit of what is I Am Setsuna, what makes it special, and then I've got some flavor of my own to add with an interview.
Yeah, so I got to play it for about an hour, actually, just on the floor, because the demo doesn't end.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah. I actually, when I started lineup, I just went into the save files and just picked one at random to load.
Yeah, that's what that was an interesting thing. I was talking to the PR lady next to me, and she's just like, "Yeah, I don't even know if this ends." It's just like, just play it. I was like, all right. So yeah, I started a new game at the beginning and played for about an hour.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Went through the tutorials, learning the combat system and all that stuff. Heavily inspired by Final Fantasy, old school Final Fantasies.
Yeah, the top-down
ones, which is great. And I love the art style. I love the music, the combat animations, the dialogue, the menu interfaces. Everything was just like perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it really. It's clear that they have a vision. They absolutely have a vision of the golden era of JRPGs. And actually, I interviewed the game's technical director, and he said that it was a little more than just that. Like, they saw that Western studios, like Western indie teams and stuff, were getting a lot of success doing Japanese RPGs on their own.
Yeah.
And so Square Enix, as Japanese developers, went, wait a minute, why are we making Japanese role-playing games? But it was a proof of concept that, these games have been selling really well. People want to return to basics, especially as some of the modern large franchises like Final Fantasy are branching off into new directions, weird directions, just doing different things. Yeah, I mean, the art style in particular, I mean, we got to touch on that. It's like it's certainly not like the chibi style of like super large heads and large eyes, but it's kind of... It's exaggerated in a way that they clearly want you to see the characters' faces as you're moving around and identify them as more than just a collection of pixels. But the camera is still pulled out considerably. There's also motifs with snow and autumn leaves. Like, that's very prominent in the game's art. And one thing they told me is that they want it to be remembered as the game of snow. Like, it's very important that just the melancholic feelings of
like
snow.
Even your starting weapon there in the game is like it's like a magical looking weapon or sword, but it has like I can't remember. It's like has some snow related name, so like it's even in the weapons and everything. It's ingrained.
Yeah, it's interesting that you started the game fresh, because I was bouncing between that and I thought, well, maybe I'll just dive into the middle and like get a better sense of abilities and stuff. And I kind of wish I would have started new so that I had a better sense of the combat system, but. Yeah, right off the bat, we left a town, headed north through the field. I mean, you've got an overworld map that's very similar to the Chrono Triggers and the FF4s of yesteryear. I went up to a series of ice caves and fought a few battles in there. What struck you most about the combat system that is both paying homage to classic titles, but then there's also new elements too. There's modern stuff.
I mean, there's the standard, just like the attack. I think tech was what they used it for, like it was like
that sounds right.
The abilities that you had, so you earn different things, or when you level up, I think you pick up like special charm type things that allow you to use different abilities.
Yeah, it was weird. You could almost equip those like
it's like a materia almost type of thing.
Yeah, and it's like you could. I picked up one called Provoke, which was there's a tanky character that I can't remember his name, like Neater or something like that.
Oh yeah, and I just encountered him when I ended.
And he, when I picked up an ability called Provoke, I went to the menu and he was the only one who could use it. And it was essentially a taunt, so it does seem character tied, but you can find them as loot and treasure.
The main character, I'm trying to remember what his name was, but he had a cyclone was his ability, so it's like you could attack and it would do an area damage. If the enemies were nearby. That was the thing, that's like enemies can move around independently. You can't move around, but you can move towards enemies.
Tell, you couldn't. When you use attacks, they might naturally carry you.
They'll move towards them. So you can do the area attacks. I did actually have one time where two enemies ended up right next to each other, and I used a basic attack, and it ended up doing damage to both of them at once.
Oh, because they were just within
so just
that range
yeah,
of
if they're
you,
in the line of sight or if they're in the line of attack, so they.
I really like that take as a modern element because, modern isn't even really the right word to use it. I just don't even know if there's many games out there that kind of do that sort of pseudo-modified, like, proximity-based attack. Star Ocean a little bit does that with just crowd control, and you might use a big slash and hit multiple people. But in an old-school RPG setting, that's basically unheard of.
Yeah, and then they have other things, too, where certain characters, you can team up with certain parts of your party if you have certain parameters met, and you can do combo attacks. Like I should have written down the names of these people, but the first character that joins your party outside of Setsuna, who is the she's one of the protagonists, but she's
was it Althea or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. She was like a magic user who used knives. You could team up with her and do a combo attack that would basically the both of you would charge up, and then you would just kind of dash forward in this X kind of pattern, and any enemy that was in that line of fire would be damaged pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And that was something that would use your, I don't know if they called it MP in this, but it would use your MP.
Yeah, your mana resource.
Yeah, going through that. And probably the most unique thing about the combat system that they had so far was if you attack or if you are attacked or just the start of your turn, there's a circle next to each character's stats that will slowly fill up, and it can fill up to 3 times, and each time it gets full, you get like a little light that's on the star.
So even when your ATB gauge fills, indicating next to turn, there's some risk reward to not acting right away, but just waiting.
It doesn't matter if you're waiting. Well, I mean, if you wait and let other things attack you, then it'll do it. But it won't just fill up on its own if you wait. As soon as your turn starts, it'll jump up a bit and go through. But yeah, it is ATB battle system, active time battle.
Yeah,
we mentioned that before. But those little things that you fill up, you can use them and activate. You press square to use a momentum, is what they called it. So if you're attacking, there'll be this little spark on the screen. If you have enough energy for that, and you can press square really quickly during that, and you'll do extra damage. Or if you let it keep going, there's a chance that it'll do a thing called singularity, which will allow just a randomized type of perk for your party as you're fighting.
Right.
And if you have all 3 of those little lights lit up on your characters, there's a greater chance of that happening. So it's you can wait to use them or use them right away. I think they go away after each encounter. Okay. Because I know that for a fact that one of the battles I had 1 on 2 of my characters charged up, and then on the next encounter it was reset to nothing.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pretty sure it's just fading. You use them when you get them type of thing, and I'm not entirely sure the depth of the complexity of that mechanic and what the best strategy is, because obviously it's only an hour I could get with it, but.
Which is enough to see some party members and really actually get knee-deep into the story.
Yeah, and realize that the different strengths and weaknesses that some of them had.
So they told me that the game is 20 to 30 hours long. And it can be more. That was more or less a streamlined playthrough where you're playing through the locations, boss fights, not necessarily spending a ton of time exploring. But there are things to find. There's some secrets to unlock and some story events that aren't required, or optional scenes you can chase. An interesting point, something I gleaned from the interview, is that the story is really focused on a feeling represented by the Japanese word Setsuna, which of course is echoed in the name Setsuna. The character of Setsuna in the game is a heroine who is resigned to a fate of needing to be sacrificed in service of this deity that the world is trying to appease, not unlike Broken Age, not unlike Sin from Spira in Final Fantasy X.
And that's actually how the game starts off, is that you go through, meet this guy, and he kind of trains you and helps you through this. Then after you fight the first mini-boss of the game, another guy comes up behind you and basically gives you a contract, and your first contract is to go kill Setsuna. So you're supposed to go find this girl and kill her, and then she's a sacrifice. Right. And apparently her mother was a sacrifice before her, and then they play a very important role, I know you had said in your interview when you were talking with them that they took heavy influences from 10.
Yeah,
with Yuna being that sacrifice to save the world, and that's kind of the implication that was made with her character.
And they describe the feeling of Setsuna as not sorrow explicitly, but the sort of sorrowful resignation to a task that you must do, and like a melancholic, maybe like a melancholic reflection on just the fact that I need to do this and I'm resigned to my fate. And so the game it presumably explores that feeling in great depth, and then whether it's, you know, should you accept the feeling of Setsunai? Like, is that an okay thing to accept? Should you pursue
They clearly
to fight
conveyed that in the first like 20 minutes.
it sounds like it. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, so I think obviously it's going to appeal to classic fans of and we kept saying it in the interview,
absolutely.
The golden era of JRPGs is totally on point here. I asked about things such as the difficulty, like it is designed to mimic the difficulty of past games in terms of on a battle by battle basis. Their intention is to have boss fights, some of which you will not defeat the first time, just because of, you know, you can't learn it quite fast enough.
Sure.
But they were cognizant of the fact that gamers today may not have as much time as they did when they were playing 7, 8, 9 as kids growing up or as young adults, and so they also made the intentional decision to limit the length somewhat. It's not a 60-hour game or a 100-hour game. It's a solid 20 to 30-hour narrative adventure. So presumably you'll level up fairly quickly. Compared to most other games.
I hit like level 6 or 7 by the time I was done.
Oh yeah, see, and that's only 1 hour.
But I mean, typically at the beginning of it, you're gonna level up to
very true
10 levels pretty quickly. But
I did hear that Tokyo RPG Collective Tokyo RPG Factory rather has their sights set on another game after I Am Setsuna. So it isn't just a proof of concept or like a one-off thing for Square Enix to be
another game following I Am Setsuna, like within the same world. Or
that's not clear. Just simply
that they're already ready to go.
We asked the technical director, and I want to pull up his name to make sure I pay him the respect and homage he deserves. But specifically, the thing he's most looking forward to after having finished development of the game is making his next one. That was his answer. And they wouldn't say, you know, what type of thing that will take inspiration from. Like, is it going to be another golden JRPG era type homage, or will it be something a little offbeat? They're simply, they don't want to say or aren't willing to say.
But referring to the length of the game too, that was one of the things that was mentioned when I was talking to the woman at the booth, saying that she said, I hope that you're not a completionist because this is going to be a nightmare of a game for you if you are.
There was the item thing.
What she meant by that was that there's a unique thing to this game. As far as I know, it's unique to I Am Setsuna, where you will get certain item drops from enemies based on how you kill them, or like what means you kill them and how much you kill them by, because there are momentum kills, like what I said before. When you press square, you activate momentum when you build up that charge, and if you can kill them with momentum kills, you can get an exact kill. If you hit them with a proper amount of damage, there's overkills. There's different types of ways, so there's like multiple ways you can kill something, and in addition to that, there are multiple ways in which you kill them, like the methods that you use to kill them, and those all determine what item enemies will drop. So there easily could be a way, if you're not paying attention, you're trying to do a complete 100% run on all the items.
Right.
That you killed this person at an exact kill, but you didn't kill them with magic instead, or you killed them with the wrong spell, or you should have momentum killed them even though you did kill them the right way that you're supposed to, or, you know, the different things like that.
Sounds like it's going to sell strategy guides.
Yeah, guides are going to be crazy for this.
For sure. I just wanted to clarify, the director of the game is Usuke Kumagai. He was a programmer on Rogue Galaxy and has previously worked on the Professor Layton series, as well as Dragon Quest VIII on PS2. The one that really blew things out, had the Final Fantasy 12 demo attached. So it was a very insightful interview. It really dove into thematically the motifs of snow and autumn leaves and the changing seasons should play into this feeling of Setsunai. And another interesting note I would add is that their aim with the characters is to try to reproduce that feeling with characters in classic Final Fantasies, where part of the reason that they're so attractive as characters and we feel so strongly for them is that there are parts of those characters that's left to the imagination. I mean, in terms of the game, visually, they're not perfectly well realized, and we don't get to see exactly what they look like. And the dialogue, you know, there's ellipses used fairly often. The dialogue is somewhat rudimentary. Some of the reasoning behind the decision to have more of that top-down view also says, well, you're allowed to build an interpretation of Setsuna in your head, of Nidra in your head, and you know, the characters might be appreciated a little bit differently by everybody.
And the visual thing too that I wanted to, part of the reason why I loved the design of it so much was that there are character faces that will show up next to the text boxes when they're speaking, but they're essentially they are the quality of like Final Fantasy cover art, like those images, but like fully realized and
those were really awesome.
It's just the detail and all that, and even just the box, like the dialogue boxes are unique, where it's more like this grayed kind of broken edged, like almost like granite tablet type of look, like really slight. It's just like there's a lot of unique,
a slick looking game.
Yeah,
for
there's
sure.
a lot of unique detail that they put into this. That's just
definitely
really refreshing, but extremely familiar at the same time.
Well, thankfully, we won't have to wait long. It's out July 19th for PlayStation 4. And you know, I think it's going to appeal to anyone who liked the golden era of JRPGs and looking
even
for a
if you
return to
didn't
basics.
play any of those, like this is.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah, I think it'll be
like,
really accessible.
I was fine with like I was always struggling to try to get back into some of the older JRPGs. Like I've always thought about starting them up again, and I was like, I don't really want to.
Because you've seen them so much.
Yeah, and then this was just like I started playing it, and I easily could have stopped E3 and just like played this for the rest of the like last few days.
You can't leave. You can't leave. We got work to do.
Yeah, I could have just been totally happy playing it for 2 days in a row.
Great, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. It was fun to have a little digest on the game.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching our impressions of I Am Setsuna. Again, out on July 19th for PlayStation 4. A return to basics for the RPG genre and a sign of good things to come for new but old RPG ideas.
Incredibly strong showing
in
for
the
a new
modern
developer too.
For sure. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more of our E3 2016 coverage videos from the show floor and from here in Los Angeles. Take care, and enjoy the articles on the site as well. Cheers.